Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the AdSkills Pro podcast. My name is Kate Buck Jr. I'm your host, and you know that on this podcast, we talk about real life campaigns run by top ad buyers. And the best part is at the end, you can find out how to hire these pros. So today I am joined by a longtime veteran of the space, Jonathan Wilson. Thanks for being here, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk to you today because one of the things I was reading in your bio is that you have managed, well, I guess spent as well, over $2.5 million in ad campaigns over the course of your career.
That's right. Yes, I have.
There were other notable things in there, but I know that you have a podcast, you're AdSkills certified. You're also a Ask Method associate. So it sounds like to me that you really have a very holistic, you sort of really trying to learn and combine strategies from all over the place. How do you decide which one you're going to implement for which client?
Yeah. So obviously that comes from talking to the client, but in general, most people need traffic first, right? And that is kind of what AdSkills is all about, is let's get the traffic to the business, to the offer. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey learning all these things and getting to the point where I can really scale clients up.
Tell me, let's just pause for a second and rewind. I would love to know how you got into internet marketing or what got you into media buying. What were you doing before this? I just had this random thought that that's not a question I'm going to be able to ask forever because some of our younger interviewees, they weren't doing anything before the internet. They've always been doing the internet. But those of us that have been around this space for a while, it's a good question. I'd love to know, and what led you, like what intrigued you and got you into this?
Yep. So right out of school, I was hired by actually a friend of mine, my family, that was starting a software development company. Now, this was when the internet, this was literally right before the .com bubble. So like we were in that. And so we didn't really build websites. There were sites attached, but what we built was like systems, so order processing systems. Funny enough, we built one of the first PPC bid management automation platforms ever. And that was back when Yahoo search ads was the rage, before Google was really, even around. So at the time, I didn't really understand what PPC meant as I do now. But yeah, so we did big projects, but bunch of developers on the team. It usually took a while for the projects to be done. And I did that for 10 years. So I was the system administrator, definitely a techie, building servers, running servers, maintaining the networks and security and all that. And I noticed over time, every once in a while, I'd get to run back into the former clients and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? How's business? And sometimes they would say, oh, well, we sold the company or we shut it down. And to me, because I was all into the tech, that was unbelievable because I knew we did really good work, had really brilliant people in our company, folks who used to work for Motorola and the government and all that. They were really smart guys. We did really top quality work. And I just couldn't believe that we would do this stuff and then people would go out of business. So I started asking questions. And at the end of the day, it turns out that sales and marketing are rather essential to making a business actually grow, right? Like you can have all the pieces, you can have the site, you can have the system, the company, but if you don't have customers and leads and sales, you're going to go nowhere. So based on that, I basically taught myself marketing. I learned SEO. My boss at the time was kind enough for me to pay to get a AdWords professional to actually teach me one-on-one how to run AdWords. And so I did that. When that career came to an end, the company actually downsized. So I went and started my own marketing agency. And, based on what I just told you there, that I couldn't believe that these companies would invest and have a good setup and then go nowhere. I literally set up my agency to help that. Like I wanted to see people not just waste their time and waste their money, but actually get somewhere. And AdWords, so early on, I was doing kind of a jack of all trades, everything that can be done within the scope of internet marketing, which is where my breadth of experience comes from. But early on, I ran into Perry Marshall. So he was the first, there's a lot of people like Justin and Perry out there that you can follow and learn from. Real grateful that it was Perry, because Perry is a really smart guy, really nice guy. I've actually worked for him and with him a little bit, and got into AdWords. And what appealed to me about AdWords again, my background was tech, right? So unlike Facebook, where I think your main job all day long with Facebook is cranking out new creatives, AdWords, especially search, is very systematic. You can grow, you can run tests, you don't have the ad fatigue problems like you have on Facebook ads. And so you can really optimize that thing over time. Just with the process, right? You have the optimization process, and you just run that thing forever, and it gets better and better all the time. And so that's kind of why AdWords in particular became my main focus. Just it matches me pretty well. Along with that, I can't remember when I first used Google Analytics, but it was back when it was a new Google product. So I've been doing that for a long time. I was listening to some of the earlier podcast episodes before today, and I heard a lot of people mention that tracking was kind of like a big revelation, like a big new idea for them. Oh, I'm running these Facebook ads and I ought to track them. I came at it the other way around. Like, to me, tracking is where you start. I mean, you have to have your website up and online, but then to me, the very next thing you need is tracking, because before you spend a single dollar online, you've got to know what people are doing on your site and with your ads and in your funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the beginning too, tracking was really complicated. We don't have a lot of the tools and stuff that we have today. And it still is actually, maybe the tools actually layer, in some cases, an added complication, add the complication instead of making it. So tracking has always been a big conversation, at least for people that were doing smart marketing.
Yep.
Versus versus, I don't know, dumb marketing, whatever. But tracking has always been an issue. And the people that were really thinking about it first, it sounds like you were developing tools and doing all kinds of stuff. So it seems like that's really been top of mind for you always.
Yep. And so I've used a lot of different systems. I remember installing like SiteMeter on blogs way back in the beginning, but Google Analytics was and is where it's at. I mean, if you're just getting started until you're in a really advanced stage, Google Analytics is totally the thing that you need to use to get going, combined with using the native tracking in whatever ad platform you're running. So, if you're running Google ads, don't just use Google Analytics, use the native tracking that comes with Google ads, and same with Facebook.
How do you resolve any discrepancies between the data coming from two different sources like that? I know that's a complicated question, but I'm just curious an overall approach, because I know I hear that question a lot.
For sure. So first thing is take a deep breath and realize that you'll never resolve it. It's just not going to happen. So a mentor of mine once told me analytics and any form of tracking is not QuickBooks, right? So in other words, if you're hoping that your tracking on any platform is going to track things down to the penny, down to the user, it's just not going to happen. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. So on the user side, we've got, there may be something as simple as a network glitch or a browser, maybe an old mobile device that just doesn't properly process the JavaScript. There's things like people have, ad blockers and privacy, things that they've installed on their browser to keep trackers at bay. A lot of the browsers, for that matter, this is kind of new in 2019 and moving forward, a lot of the browsers are coming with anti-tracking technology baked in. So this is actually kind of going downhill at this point. So there will always be discrepancies, because any given browser might allow, maybe it'll allow the Facebook pixel to come in, but not Google Analytics, or vice versa. So there's that. There's also the fact that every one of these systems uses modeling. Now, I don't want to get into an attribution modeling discussion right now, but there is a little bit of interpretation. It's not that they're playing games. It's that there's usually a user journey involved, and it often has multiple touch points. So did a person click on more than one ad? Maybe they clicked on a Facebook ad and a Google ad. And then in that case, both platforms are going to claim that they're the one that got the sale, right? And so that's how you end up with these situations where, now wait a minute, I've made $1 million, but Facebook says that they made me 3/4 of that, and Google Ads says it made me 3/4 of that, and that doesn't add up, right? So that's how you get.
So your final, the tiebreaker and or the one you run with is, you're saying your home is Google Analytics.
If you need one place to compare everything, then yes, I would do that. It is going to favor the Google products a little bit. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, so I'm a big fan. We'll probably talk about this more here in a minute, but I'm a really big fan of the basics, because that's where things go really wrong if you don't get the basics in place. And a big part of that is just having the understanding of how powerful simplicity is, basically, right? So going back to what my mentor told me, at the end of the day, you have to look at not just your tracking platforms, but at your actual, like your bank account, right? Are you spending money? Is it making you money? Do you actually have transactions that you can show came in, or is this thing just, off the rails and over reporting? Let me give you an example of that, because what I just said there probably sounds obscure, but it's very real. So I had a client about 4 years ago came to me and said, listen, I'm trying to do my own AdWords, and I've had a couple other people help me too, and it's working, and I'm making sales, but like, I just can't manage the thing. It seems like every time I go in there and set something up new or make a change, it just doesn't match reality. And like, reality for him was literally like how his bank account was doing, right? And I got in there, and when I take on a new client, checking the tracking is absolutely one of the first things I do. And what I discovered was that he had installed the AdWords tracking 3 times. It's a very simple thing, but what that means is every time you make a sale, AdWords is now claiming that you made 3. And so if you made $10,000 that day, AdWords is telling you you made 30,000, and same, so and that affects all kinds of things. It makes campaigns that are completely losing money look like they're profitable. So you're looking at your account, you're trying to decide which campaigns are good, which to give a bigger budget to. And if you think they're profitable, but they're actually costing you money, you're going to go down the drain pretty quick.
That sounds similar to an issue that I just sorted out for a client as well. And we're in cleanup mode between 8 million systems, CRMs, email autoresponders, website itself, Wicked Reports, Google Analytics, you name it. It's a fun game. It looks like right now, what is the picture? The old switchboard operators where one thing's plugged in here and it triggers some other automation, and then that triggers. It feels like right now, or like, I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but timely at the time we're recording, when you take the Christmas lights out of the box and they're all in a jumble in a ball and you get to sit there for an hour and unwind them. That's my life right now. So, got it. In this case, even with this client, it was so messy, we decided to just build from scratch and slowly start moving automations and systems over to a new system, because it's so convoluted, can't figure it out. So we're just starting fresh. But I love that is a driving force for you. I'm curious to know how a veteran like yourself has benefited from being part of the AdSkills Pro community. Like, I know you've been around for, I don't know how it means to say that, but we've been in the industry for a while, and we were throwing around some previous iterations of the name of AdSkills, and it was DMBI and I Am Scalable and bunch of other different names. But how has that benefited you as you've evolved your offerings and your trainings, and are you a member of the AdSkills Pro community? I'd selfishly like to hear what positive impact.
For sure. So I had heard of Justin a little bit because he's a good guy and people like him. And I was actually invited in by another AdSkills member, Maseo Jordan. And he basically said, if you've got questions, Justin right there, that guy is the guy to ask. So yeah, and when I got in, I really joined for the support that comes from the community. And so here's an interesting thing. I have been around the internet marketing space for quite a while. I've bought a lot of training, and I've been in a lot of courses, masterminds, and memberships. And I can honestly say that AdSkills is the only place I've found yet where there are real in the trenches media buyers who are actually doing the work, actually solving the problems, and they're in there every day. And, we help each other, and people get in there and ask Google questions, and I'll answer them. And then I'll try to do something like, run a Facebook ad for myself. And I'm not a Facebook specialist, and I'll have questions, and I get good answers. And that is extremely valuable to me. Obviously Justin's training is awesome. I like market research. Justin's got a whole course that tells you how to really dig into your audience and your buyers and understand them. That's phenomenal. That's the kind of thing that I watch it repeatedly, because every time you go through it, you learn something new, right? So, but the main thing is the support. Awesome people and awesome support.
Thank you for sharing that. Much appreciated. And we're happy to be here, providing that service to the elite digital media buying community. I'm curious to know, I want to hear about some of these campaigns where you've unsnaggled all of the Christmas lights and now they're running at optimal performance. I know you have some nationwide campaigns around lead generation, and another campaign that we were talking about as we were prepping. Tell me, I'd love to hear, what happened when you found it and it was in that the Christmas lights all wrapped up, what you found and how you were able to, or what results you were able to produce once you got it fixed.
Yeah. So, there's so many examples. It's hard for me to think of just one good one. Obviously, if it's a brand new account starting from scratch, that's kind of a dream, because I can just get in there and plan it out the way I'd like it to be. And basically, in that kind of a situation, you want the tracking to match the actual user journey and buyer cycle, right? So somebody clicks and they come to the website for the first time ever. They may purchase right away, and of course that makes the purchase tracking the most important, but they may do a lot of other things too. They may opt in, they may join the email list, sign up for a webinar, watch the VSL, and we can look at all those things. And it's actually amazing the insights that you get from watching even some of those simple things, like, users who spend a lot of time on the site or look at a lot of pages are almost always far more valuable and an indicator of somebody who will be a buyer than somebody who just comes and looks at one page and leaves, right? So that's one case. In the case of the spaghetti Christmas lights, that can be fun. So I have a little audit process that I go through. I usually interview the client and manually dig through their website and kind of mystery shop, so to speak. Not too much mystery there, but go through the process as if it was a buyer. One thing I've noticed is for people who have had their website or their funnel for a long time, they often stopped paying attention to exactly how a user experiences that. And they don't even realize that, they're getting this pop-up or this form or something else before they ever get to the cart. So sometimes even before we get into the tracking itself, the funnel needs to be at least remapped, sometimes redesigned. And then, but once that's clear, to me, it's very easy to make a spreadsheet and just find all those data points that really matter, and then go through and make a goal or a conversion action, custom conversion in Facebook for everything that needs to be tracked.
What are the types of niches or industries that you like to work in?
Yep. So my best successes have been in lead gen. And there's of course a lot of things fall under the lead gen category, but this is people who need to either get on a list or apply, like for a quote, or for maybe they need to apply for a phone call. So I've worked with a bunch of that. My best story was a auto loan lead generation. We can come back to that in a second. I also work a lot with e-commerce. Now that's not just any e-commerce. The ones that I have found that work the best is where you have a brand that's in a direct-to-consumer situation, and they have their own particular, usually kind of narrow line of products. So they're not just a pet store selling every pet supply in the world and competing with Amazon, right? But like they've got their specialty, and it's real easy to build up a fan base, so people who really love the company and their line of products. Another thing that I like about that kind of a situation is usually those companies are, active on social, maybe other forms of promotion, and it makes the search campaigns really come alive when they are also putting energy into their social campaigns and other offline advertising as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm the other side of the coin. So I'm trying to help you with organic social. I'm hoping people are participating and doing actually all the things, right? Like they're not neglecting what they could be doing with their email list, and they're not neglecting what they could be doing with retargeting, and they're not neglecting YouTube, for instance. So many people are hesitant right now.
Oh yeah.
Or struggling with getting over this video hump. I find so many clients, the fact that they have to be creating media rich content. So it has to, they need a YouTube channel or a podcast or something in order to act. People just are not just reading content anymore. It's like that evolution from Instagram or from Twitter to Instagram is now happening, with their blog. They need to go from text to video. And so, but all of that really ends up working together in concert to make your job easier and hopefully priming clients, right? Priming customers or prospects with the right information. So next, when they get retargeted and they see the ad after they've watched the video, or they see a post because we're boosting it to people that have watched videos or whatever it is, that cost per click goes down or the cost per lead goes down because these other channels have supported everything leading up to the time that we're actually spending, or that we're spending ad dollars anyway, to convert them. So yeah.
Yeah, or return on ad spend goes up, which is what I'm usually looking for. I've got some pretty extreme examples of that. So about a year and a half ago, I was working with a company, with their agency to be exact, and they were doing a lot of Facebook campaigns. I was not directly involved in Facebook, but I heard the conversation, so I knew this was happening. And the company kept reanalyzing that and saying, "Look, Facebook is not making us any money. Like this looks very obvious. Thousands of dollars in Facebook ads. It's going nowhere. It's time to shut it off." Well, they were doing 90,000 a day. I'm sorry, not a day. 90,000 a month on Google ads. And when they turned their Facebook ads off, their unprofitable Facebook ads off, it dropped to 10,000. So like literally their Facebook ads, even though the direct see a Facebook ads, click and buy was not happening, what was happening is people were seeing it on Facebook probably for the first time and, basically thinking, wow, that's interesting. I'm going to go look this up. So then they would jump over to Google and search for it, and then they would click and buy. So like the correlation is super strong. And I know a lot of people, even particularly, Facebook is so popular right now. It's easy to learn. It's easy to get into. I've had people kind of look at me as maybe an anachronism for being a Google guy. Like, why don't you do Facebook ads, right? Facebook is really popular. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much they're limiting themselves by sticking just to the Facebook game. Once you put in that effort and spent that money, you're already creating, I know brand awareness is not popular in the direct response community, but it is a very real thing. And, you've already started the ball rolling. So do something to capture all that goodwill you started.
David Klein, on the episode we chatted with David Klein, he mentioned the same thing about knowing where the customer is and the buyer and having the right ad on the right platform at the right time.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what you're alluding to here at the same time. Like maybe they saw you on Facebook and that was the first touch, but now you've planted the seed and now they've gone away. And so now they're going to Google searching for trying to remember what that ad was, or vice versa, similar to like seeing the commercial in the middle of the Super Bowl or whatever. And then the correlation between that and how fast somebody is going to their browser just to do some searches. So yeah, I love these campaigns. Is there any other campaign that you'd like to tell us about?
Sure there is. One more example of that. So one of my best recent successes just happened in November. They made $500,000 just in November alone, and they made quite a lot of that on Black Friday. But for sure, it was not just because not just that they had ads running on Black Friday. All the effort, all the energy they've put into growing their audience over the last years and months totally snowballed into that. Something else that helped. So I worked on that particular project with another AdSkills member, Jordan Swanson. He's a fantastic guy. He's really good at what he does. He's one of the few people I know that do programmatic. So you could ask Jordan to explain it, but my short version of programmatic is to get your ads on all those other ad networks that you're missing if you're just doing Google and Facebook alone. And it's real clear in a case like that this multi-channel omnipresence effect, where these ads and videos are everywhere, staying in front of people, creating all those multiple touch points like David was talking about there. It's super strong and super effective.
Awesome. I love getting to talk really high level stuff that isn't the typical conversation that people are having. So it's really awesome. If people want to reach out, they want to chat with you about, I know you said you really specialize in Google as far as search, display network, also YouTube, which we just mentioned, video is the future, or maybe there's something after video as well. But this is the time where when people are saying do I need to have one of my clients asked me the other day if I thought it would be a good idea for them to switch to Vimeo and start doing their video marketing on Vimeo and not instead of YouTube, because they thought YouTube was ugly. If you stop YouTube, we should just stop doing video. No, that's not true. Sorry, Vimeo, I love you. You do have a great 170 million user base, so nothing to sneeze at for sure. But also YouTube ads, right? So if someone wants to reach out, someone wants to work with you, what are the best ways for them to hunt you down and make contact?
Yeah, so I think there'll be links given later, but you can look me up on Facebook and you can go to my website, which is octobermarketing.com.
Hey, that's really simple. That's probably the easiest one I've heard. Octobermarketing.com. I'm sure it'll be somewhere on this page if you're watching on YouTube, as you should. It'll probably be below the video, but if you're listening or watching somewhere else, it could be somewhere. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for being here. It was a pleasure to actually get to connect. I know I've seen your name. I'm sure we've been in the same groups and Slack groups and AdSkills Pro, obviously, and maybe on the Facebooks here and there. So it's great to connect and chat with you, pick your brain a little bit.
Can I promote Justin for just a second here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So referring to that whole thing we were just talking about, where there's this interplay between ad networks, right? So when you're getting started, until you're ready to do programmatic or something like that, the best thing you can do to facilitate that, and this will get you a very long way down the road, is retargeting. So I'm a little bit of a retargeting specialist. That's actually what my podcast is about and other things. But Justin Brook has his retargeting recipes book. It's skinny, but this is a fantastic book. You can literally sit down at your computer and go through this one page at a time and come out on the other end, whatever it is, 66, 67 pages later, with some of the world's best retargeting campaigns up and running. And I would strongly advise you to do that. So he's got, it's very clear. And I've asked a lot of people, why don't you do retargeting? What do you need to know? And there seems to be a lot of overwhelm related to that. And literally most of the answers are I don't know how it works. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to set it up. Justin's got the answer for you on all that little how-to stuff. I've got to go with my podcast. I've got my own little book as well, but get Justin.
I was just about to say that. I think you have a book as well.
I sure do.
On remarketing.
Yep. And so
what's the name of your podcast?
Say that again.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, Justin's gets you all of these step-by-step, here's how to implement it going. So do that first. My book teaches you a little bit more, beyond just the setup basics, how to do that same thing we were talking about, where you're getting all those touch points, hitting people from the different angles where they need to hear your message said more than one way, which is a trap that a lot of retargeting beginners fall into, right? They just run 3 or 4 ads that are basically saying the same thing. And retargeting is a great chance to come at them from all kinds of directions. Tell your story, tell how you got started, tell what's good about the product, tell how it can be used, tell how people like it, right? So all the different things there. And that's in my book.
I love retargeting. I know people get creeped out by it and they're like, why is this ad following me around the internet? But I had a product just recently and I literally said it was Black Friday and I went looking for their Black Friday deal and they were running a deal, but it wasn't on the exact product that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to my business partner, he said, "Did you get it?" And I said, "No, they were running a deal, but it wasn't on, their Black Friday deal wasn't on the model that I wanted." I was like, if they had even just had $50 off or something, like I would have,
Yes.
I would have gotten it. And then now now on Google Display, got a nice little, I don't know if they heard me, if that AI is happening, it's insane. But it's like, hey, $50 off, come buy the model that you want. And I'm like, how smart. I mean, they didn't offer it on that day. They probably would have had, they offered it on their highest tier product. And I didn't need all that tech.
Yep.
But then they retargeted me. And so now they had a customer. It's really smart. I love retargeting, you guys. So what is the name of your podcast? This is what we haven't said. You said the name of your company, but you didn't say the name of your podcast.
Yeah. The podcast name is Maze Marketing. That phrase, by the way, comes from Perry Marshall. So Perry Marshall invented this really clever system that he calls Maze 2.0. We are authorized by him to use that name. And so we teach and help people implement what Perry engineered there. It's a really good system.
Awesome. Well, it has absolutely been a pleasure. This has been fun. I feel like I've learned a lot. I also feel like I've been talking with a new and at the same time long lost or old pal of mine that I've known forever. So it was great to connect, Jonathan. And for those of you that are listening, thank you so much for being here. Please check out Maze Marketing Podcast. Check out the Maze Retargeting book. And if you want to connect with Jonathan on Google Display, Google Search, YouTube, or just chat strategy in general, reach out through octobermarketing.com. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about how to use paid traffic and analytics to scale your business, subscribe to the AdSkills channel so you'll be notified every time new content is released. If you'd like to learn more about the topic we just discussed, check out the related video we're posting right now.